Hi, welcome to day 19 of 30 days of AI in testing challenge. And my today's challenge was on experimentation with AI for test prioritization and evaluating the overall benefits and risks that comes if you want to prioritize your tests or test suite using AI. So, pretty detailed problem statement and the question was principally around the idea of risk-based testing, that can we used AI to assess the right risks and make a decision or make a judgment on what tests are more relevant at this stage of time, and can that work, and I mean even if that can work, should we do that? So to find that out, I mean either there were two options. First, I mean if somebody had a AI powered tool for test prioritization only, then they can share their experience and what is working for them, how are they evaluating the performance of that tool, and so on. Option two was more on the lines of studying how AI would do test prioritization, what would be the benefits, drawbacks, what are the things that I believe would be the factors, risks, and so on. And then we have to reply. So what I actually did today was I looked into this crowdsource experiment done by Vipul Kochhar. So Vipul Kochhar had done this crowdsource experiment on using LLMs for testing, where he talked about he not being aware about a specific context, that is testing a banking application, and then he wanted to use LLMs, that is Bard, to design meaningful test cases, design them quickly, iterate and improve his test, and then using different LLM to cross check the results or cross check the quality of results. Now, this looks like a pretty decent kind of a problem statement, where Vipul has mentioned what are the instruction he's sending and what Bard is sending it back, and he started with sending a image. Now all looks very good when you see the kind of test at a high level that are getting generated by Bard, and it is generating negative scenarios, additional cases, UI, UX, and then it is asking to write more test cases and so on. And this looks like on a high level a very good kind of attempt by LLM over writing test cases. But when we are just looking at these test cases right now, I mean, we are actually ignoring a lot of points. I mean, we are not critically evaluating the test that it has generated and what it is missing. Now, what I saw and what I liked was that Michael Bolton has posted a reply to this testing challenge, that what do he feel by this, and like he mentioned about supporter and critics, and I mean different models of testing, and what are some issues. I mean, and he pointed to some wonderful links. I mean, which talks about like this artificial unintelligence and the reversal curse and so on. I mean, and why like AI is not doing the job of an expert. I mean, it's placating you. It's making you, giving you some data, and you're feeling that it's performing well, but it's actually manipulating you. I mean, and it's not giving good information. It's duplicating the information and so on. So I mean, it's a two-part blog. In first, he mentions high-level issues with AI, but in the second part, he posts his analysis, where I mean he has actually evaluated the responses, and I mean he found a lot of responses are duplicates. So I mean multiple repeats of all these stuff, and then some of the test cases which it has generated, it has just stamped verify that, and it feels like, I mean it's too generic and doesn't make much sense, and it's like just stamping verify that on a specific very generic requirement. So these are not test cases, these are hallucinations. And then it has also hallucinated about this IARM feature for which it made a lot of tests. So I mean, it like when we ask Bard, it gives us some information, but when you go and search for that information is actually not available on the internet. So I mean, pretty much hallucinated on what is going on. And then I mean, while it could see this IARM on the screen, I mean, it missed out a lot of things which are on there on the screen. So I mean, it did a selective selection, and unless you don't look for these things as an expert, I mean, you don't realize that, I mean, you have missed out test for these many scenarios and cases and stuff. So overall, I mean, pretty detailed report. I would encourage others to read this, but I mean, this, like, reading this itself is a work. I mean, it took me hours to read this, and after that, I created this mind map with the topic of AI test prioritization. So I also read some articles on the internet. I tried prompting and seeing AI's view on this and so on. And then I created this mind map. So this was created for this day 19 of 30 days of AI in testing challenge. I'm Rahul Parwal. And like the biggest challenge, I mean, why do we want even AI to do a test prioritization in the first place? So the reason is, I mean, there are certainly too many tests and too less time. So I mean, most stable products, I mean, as they iterate, release after release, new tests keep on getting, and then the test suite grows really big, and then too less time to execute such a big regression pack. So I mean, essentially deciding what test to run so that you get the maximum possible coverage and you detect the right bugs based on the changes in the code and so on. So I mean, that's a core challenge, and I mean, a lot of people have tried to implement this out. So I mean, to implement that, I mean, what uh, actually people do is, like, they try to collect data and do some pre-processing of that data, and even data about the changes that have happened in the code and whatever data is relevant, maybe past test cycles, past kind of historical bugs and so on, and then select the feature which has updated, and then use ML model to make a prediction and prioritization, and then integrate that prediction with the test solutions, maybe automation suite, and execute test cases which are covering those aspects of the code and so on. So that's how to implement that, or how companies implement that. And I mean, big companies like Google, Microsoft have done that. I mean, so Google uses historical data to prioritize tests, and similarly Microsoft has built a system called Evo, which predicts bugs from code changes. So the moment you change the code, I mean, it highlights these are the kind of bugs for testing, and prioritize the testing on these areas. So some companies have certainly been using it, and from quite long time. I mean, this is not some recent thing. But what are the benefits? I mean, what they claim, or what enthusiasts claim, like what will they get? So I mean, it's first is faster feedback, which means, I mean, of course, when you are reducing the entire test cycle to and prioritizing it a bit, I mean, it will take less time. And another benefit is, I mean, the decision is not based on feeling of the tester, or like some decision making ambiguous process which cannot be quantified, but essentially data driven decision making. So really using data to drive your decisions and nothing else. So pure objective analysis, and then optimal resource utilization based on the terms of number of containers that you would be using for running that subset and so on. So that will be good. And then risk based prioritization, so you are using previous risk to guide your test, and then reduced costs and so on. So these are high level benefits, but at the same time, I saw a lot of drawbacks to this approach. So while I see 5 benefits, I mean, I'll now point to 8 drawbacks that I see. So first is biases. I mean, for AI who is reading existing data, the existing data creates some biases, and based on the data, AI will assume certain biases. It will make some correlations and get those biases in. So that's a problem that can happen. Second is lack of transparency, because you don't know at the end of this model that how AI is doing this decision. I mean, what it is omitting, because these models and the algorithm is a lot opaque. You don't know, and even it will not give consistent results on multiple tries. So that's a syndrome. That's an issue with LLM. It can lead to false positive or false negatives based on it highlighting test on certain area which is not even important, or so on. Then poor historical data quality. So the existing state is that companies or projects have not been storing the historical project data of the cycles of the runs, and if they are storing it at a very high level, so I mean, this data quality of this historical data is actually very poor. So using that data to drive your results is a recipe for disaster, according to me. And then LLMs suffer from syndromes like hallucinations, which I was just talking about, making up its own data, assumptions, reckless assumptions, and so on. Next thing is, I mean, it lacks human accountability. That, Like, you, a person making a decision versus a AI making a decision, then how do you ask this question that why did AI not consider this scenario? I mean, you can ask this question to a human that why did you not do this? But for AI, I mean, you cannot hold an AI responsible or accountable. And that's a very big drawback and problem, because if you make mistakes, then the cost of the mistakes will be huge, and there is no person to be. I mean, it's absolutely automated responsibility, so that it would go into that direction. And then miss important business use cases. So there could be business use cases that the AI is not considering, because similar thing is not there in its data or so on. So that is always a risk. So what my verdict is, I don't want to automate decision making, because for me, I mean, at the end of the day, this test prioritization is a topic of decision making, that what test I want to do first, what I want to do second, and what test I want to remove. And I don't want to automate that part. I mean, humans have to do this test prioritization. They have to understand the system, the responsibility, the consequences, and make that decision. And responsible testing needs human review for sure. So that's my take on this. Hopefully, maybe in future there will be new updates. Maybe my take changes, but this is what I believe as of today, and that's my take. So that was all in the day 19 of 30 days of AI in testing challenge. Thank you for staying tuned in. Bye.